السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. This is a carryover from yesterday when we were talking about does the Quran have an intended meaning or not. So this woman came to me one time after a class and she basically just wanted to challenge, right? And she said that I don't need anyone to tell me what Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying to me in the Quran. I read it and whatever I understand is what Allah is saying to me. He might say something different to you, but I don't need any sheikh to explain the Quran to me. I don't need any mufassir to explain the Quran to me. I'll read it and whatever I understand, that's what Allah wanted me to understand. The sad part of the story is that she didn't speak Arabic, so she's going to understand the translation of the meanings, which is based on tafsir anyways. She says she doesn't need tafsir. She doesn't need any scholar between her and Allah. So I told her, okay, I'm going to give you a verse from the Quran. And you tell me what it means. Okay? And this is verse 118 in Surah At-Tawbah. And the verse just suddenly starts by saying, وَعَلَى الثَّلَاثَةِ الَّذِينَ خُلِّفُوا. And upon the three who stayed behind. So I told her, the question is, who are the three who stayed behind? But you said you can understand the Quran without stepping outside of the Quran, without going to hadith, without going to tafsir. Yalla. Tell me who are the three who stayed behind. And what battle is this talking about anyways? She said, well, I have to start reading from the beginning of the page. I said, wallah, inshallah, if you start from Al-Fatiha and go until قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, you're not going to know until you step outside of the Mus'haf to tafsir, to seerah. Until then, you will never know the three who stayed behind. And the three who stayed behind were, famous question, Ka'b ibn Malik, Hilal ibn Umayyah, and Murar ibn Rabi'. Well, how would you know this? Or look at the beginning of Surah Al-Hashr. If you read Surah Al-Hashr and you don't know the tafsir, or you don't go to the seerah, you will never understand what on earth is going on in Surah Al-Hashr. A group of people from the people of the book, were they Jews or were they Christians? And then they stayed in their fortresses and the Muslims weren't able to get them. And then the Muslims started to cut down palm trees suddenly in the middle of this battle. And then suddenly they surrendered, they started to destroy their own homes. What's going on? Unless you step to the seerah, you will never know that this is talking about Banu Nadir and the incident between them and the Muslims. You would never know that. So the argument, as we were discussing...
What is his name again?
Naam?
What is his name? What you said his name?
Banu Nadir, this was a tribe. Yeah. So basically the argument holds no water basically. It's a very weak argument. Today we want to look at a verse in Surah An-Nisa. Our Imam recited it like 2 days ago. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Nisa, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Do they not contemplate this Qur'an? Had it been from other than Allah, they would have found many discrepancies in it. This verse is really amazing because the verse is telling you how to tell if the Quran was not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is known as a falsification test. Okay? It's a way to prove something false. And for the most part, if you can't prove that something is false, it's probably because it's false. Yani, if I bring you a car and I tell you this is the fastest car in the world, if that's true, you can prove it false, or you can try to prove it false. You can time it and see if it's faster than the fastest car. You can put it to race against fast cars and see if it's faster than them. I can try to disprove it. I can try to prove it false. It's called a falsification test. Typically, if something is true, you can falsify it. But if something is false, you cannot. Yani if I tell you, every time your computer crashes, it's because an invisible blue unicorn bumps into it. Taib, can you falsify this statement? You have no way to prove this false, because what kind of experiment are you going to set up and what kind of camera captures invisible blue unicorns? Is there one? So there's no way to prove this is false. When you cannot prove something false, that's probably because it's false. The Quran is telling you how to tell if the Quran was false. And the Quran, if I can use this term, is your most powerful da'wah tool. So today we're doing a da'wah benefit, inshallah. It's your most powerful da'wah tool. There was a da'wah organization, maybe like a decade ago or something, right here in New York City. They should distribute 1,000 Qur'ans per month. And out of every 1,000 Qur'ans that they would distribute, they would get 300 shahadas. What does that mean? That means there is something that if people read it, 30% of them will become Muslim. That is incredible. That is the book of Allah, that's the Quran. Whoever contemplates the Quran will clearly be able to tell that this book was not written by a man, was not written by a committee, a group of men, or edited over men over the years. Impossible. You will find some things very unique about the Quran once you contemplate it. These are again da'wah benefits, things to share with co-workers and neighbors and so on and so forth. So for one, like the verse says, you would have found many discrepancies, things that directly contradict one another in the Quran. And we know there aren't any verses that directly contradict one another. Then you would find grammatical and linguistic mistakes, and there aren't any in the Quran. Rather, the Quran is used as like the guideline for grammatical rules and so on. Then you would find some very interesting things. For example, the Quran, as we know, was revealed over a period of 23 years. Now imagine someone tells you, start writing a book today. You cannot rewrite chapters. Just keep writing from now and finish it 23 years from now. Is this book going to look the same? Do you think? No. As you become wiser and more mature, even as your grammar improves, the end of the book will look very different than the beginning of the book. But the Quran is revealed over 23 years and it's consistent. Not only that, but some other amazing things. If Muhammad wrote the Quran, you would see his ups and downs and his emotions injected into the writing. Yani, for example, there was a year when the Prophet was so sad that the companions named it the year of sorrow. He didn't call it, and Allah Azza wa Jalla didn't call it that. The companions during this year noticed how sad the Prophet was, that they named that year the year of sorrow. Can you read the Quran and catch the parts that came down in the year of sorrow? Because the writing is sad? No. Can you read the Quran and figure when Khadija radiallahu anha died? That was very important in the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is it even mentioned in the Quran? No. Can you find in the Quran the part where Abu Talib dies? Never. So it can't be a human being wrote it and it remained consistent like this for 23 years. And there are no ups and downs emotionally. After the Battle of Badr, if you write your own book, after the Battle of Badr, how will the writing be? Happy. After Uhud, how will the writing be? Very sad. After the conquering of Mecca, happy again. But you don't, after a marriage, very happy. But you don't see any of that happening. You will find so much historical knowledge in the Quran. And again, the Arabs weren't like a studious group of people who were translating and reading books and they had libraries. How would they know this intricate history of all these nations? Maybe we'll cut this short so we don't go too long tonight and continue it tomorrow. But if you Google, this is something that's not on the internet, believe it or not. If you go tonight and you Google, did the Jews believe that Uzair was the son of Allah? Because Allah says in the Quran, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ عُزَيْرُ بْنُ اللَّهِ. And the Jews said Uzair, Ezra, was the son of Allah. And if you Google this tonight, you will not find a single reference to this. All you will find are hundreds of websites saying the Quran is wrong, the Jews never said that. The Quran is wrong, the Jews never said that. This is information that's so detailed, it's not even on the internet, believe it or not. One of our teachers, Hafidhahullah, he said he was having a discussion with a Jewish rabbi, and the rabbi said the Quran is wrong because it says the Jews said Israel is the son of Allah, and the Jews never said that. And the Sheikh didn't know this, but he trusts the book of Allah. He says, you go research it properly. If the Quran said it, it can't be wrong. So this rabbi said he went into some old libraries and material that's just not available to the public. And he did some research and he found that there was a tribe that doesn't exist anymore. An ancient tribe of the Jews that used to believe Uzair was the son of Allah. How would Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam know this information? How would the Prophet ﷺ know the future? So he could put, because there's knowledge of the future in the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Tabbat yada Abi Lahab wa tab. This is a Meccan surah condemning Abu Lahab. And when does Abu Lahab die? Around the Battle of Badr, many years later. But no verse came condemning Abu Sufyan, for example, because he would later on become a Muslim. Never wrong, knowing knowledge of the future. The battle between the Persians and the Romans. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, in an odd number of years, the Romans are going to defeat them. And it happened. The conquering of Mecca, mentioned in the Quran, before it happened. Knowledge of the future. Again, as you contemplate the Quran, it's impossible that a man or a committee or a group of people could have ever written such a book. So we're going to stop here, inshallah. We'll continue tomorrow with more on why the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why it's the most powerful da'wah tool. Jazakumullah khair for attentive listening. Sallallahu barak wa Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.